Hello YouTube, I'm back again with another video. I'm going to be showcasing my Rescue Ace Warrior Turbo deck, and it's very simple because it is a mix of Xyz as well as Link monsters that you can have access to with the new synergy that I'm using. And I'm going to make you understand the combo that you can perfect with this deck, even though it's not like pure Rescue Ace. You don't entirely need the turbulence. You don't need their big boss monster. It's just like the small engine that helps warriors become more viable and do their own unique strategy. So starting off, obviously we're playing 3 Goblinberg, and if you do notice in the main deck, we're not playing Neospace. We're not maxing on Neospace Connector as well as one Neospace Aqua Dolphin because I feel like hand traps are not as relevant, and it kind of takes up too much slot in the main deck, and you want to make space for cards that can either help you search as well as give you additional summons. Speaking of additional summons, we're going to go straight into maxing our boss monster, Immortal Phoenix Gearfried. For people who are not aware how to summon this card, you banish one equipped spell from your field or graveyard, special summon from the hand. It has a crazy effect. At the start of the damage step, if this card attacks, you can equip one face-up monster on the field to this card, max 1. As an equip spell, this card gains 500. When a monster effect is activated, you can send one face-up equipped card you control to the graveyard, negate the activation. If you do, destroy it. We're also playing one Renaud. I'm pretty sure people are familiar with this combo. You'll most likely use it to summon Isolde, and when you send an equip card, Renaud retrieves the card, or you can retrieve one of your fire or warrior monsters instead by itself that is either banished or in the graveyard. The first effect isn't as big of a deal, but you can easily possibly make it happen since we're playing the Rescue Ace, since they're fire warrior monsters. A certain number, yes, but not for all of them. But it's only the few that count. We're going into one Infernoble Knight Roland, which we can easily access this old as well, just in case. You don't care so much about the first effect either, but the purpose of this card is that if it's sent to the graveyard, if it's in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add one for your monster from your deck to your hand except Roland, or one equip spell. So you can treat any of your equip spells, or either Immortal Gearfried or any of your Rescue's fire warrior monsters. Another extender that we're playing is 3 Photon Thrasher. Although it can be a brick if you already control monsters, it just helps you ensure that you don't use up your normal summon as quickly as possible, so you have space for more monsters after, and its effect isn't once per turn. Rescue Ace Airlifter, one of the first air rescue monster that I mentioned in the main deck. The reason why 3 is important because you usually use 1 to search the spell, but if this card is normal summon, you can add 1 rescue spell from deck to hand. First effect, the last effect you don't care so much. It's more of the combo that I'm going to show you after. So another Rescue Ace monster that we're playing is Fire Attacker. It is a machine, but if you normal summon a Rescue or normal special summon a Rescue Ace monster but Fire Attacker, you can special summon this card from your hand. And the interesting part is that if a card is added to your opponent's hand by a card effect, except by drawing it, you can draw 2 cards, discard 1 card from your hand as well. Rescue Ace Fire Engine, the first effect very similar to Fire Attacker, but its other effect is that if a monster is special summoned to your opponent's field, you can special summon 1 level 4 lower Rescue Ace monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So it's during either player's turn. Which itself makes the effect more useful because it helps you, even though you have to wait for your opponent to summon a monster, it still helps you rack up your defense while your opponent is building up their field. Another very important Rescue Ace monster that we're actually going to be playing is Rescue Ace Impulse. We don't care so much about the first effect because you're rarely going to even use it, and I feel it's not as useful because how slow it is. But the important part is that if your opponent were to activate a monster while this card is in your hand or face up on the field, you contribute special summon one machine rescue ace monster from your deck, so that includes Fire Engine and Fire Attacker. And our last monster we're playing is 3 ZS Armed Sage. The reason why we're playing 3 because this is so, like I mentioned earlier, so that we don't use up our normal summon. You don't care so much about the other effect because there isn't that many good ZW monsters that you could add from your deck to your hand that can help you extend even further. But this is one of the cards that, like I said, we're playing an Xyz deck, so you might as well be able to special summon because most of the monsters that we start off are usually level 4. And it can be normal summon, which you usually don't want to waste your normal summon in this card. You're most likely to use either Goblinberg or Airlifter. And I am being serious, is that one thing I do need to remind you is that you can get additional normal summons with the deck, with the cards that I included. So that's all I have to say for Armed Sage. For our spells, we're playing 3 Durandal, basically playing 6 Airlifter and 4 of each of the, or like 6, basically 6 Airlifter, 6 Immortal Gearfried, as well as 4 copies of Fire Attacker, Fire Engine, Impulse, Roland, Renaud. The last effect doesn't come up as often, but what makes it so useful is that it helps you ensure that you get the combo that you need to go into a certain link play or Xyz summon. The last effect you don't care that much, but like it would have been nice. It would have been. Oh no, my mistake. This field spell. Oh no, this equip spell does not search Gearfried. My mistake. So what was I? What was that? Okay, that was something I need to take back what I just said. I take back what I just said. So but again, I wish the last effect would have been useful. It should have been target 1 level 5 or higher, or not even level 5. Target 1 Fire War monster every special summon. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except warrior monsters. It would have been nice if it would have just been any Fire War attribute monster. Just to be considering how, like, this effect doesn't just seem necessary because of how fast the game is, the pace of this game, because of how fast the game is going. So it should help, at least help the deck keep up. And I don't know why it just includes level 5 or lower Fire War monsters, considering the effect itself isn't too broken. I'm saying if you're gonna restrict these special summons, you might as well just be any Fire Warrior monster in your graveyard. And just our one of spells that we're gonna send with Sold, but just in case if your opponent has a monster, we use Autonomous Action Unit to pay 1500 life points, even though it's a steep cost to target one monster in your opponent's graveyard. Basically, Premature Burial. Special summon that monster to your field in face-up attack position. Equip this card. Obviously, it leaves the field. If it does not, if it's not there, DDR. You obviously discard 1 card. Target one of your bench monster. Special summon attack position. Similar effect compared to Action Unit. Double or nothing. Card you never want to draw into since we're playing Utopia double. And usually when you draw into it, it's definitely a brick. So you could try to put one more card to include, but 40 is important because we want to see certain cards that help the deck strive. Obviously, we're playing 3 Droplet because there are cards that may be bricks that we want to send. On top of that, it can help us like break boards as well as do more damage, and it is a quick play. So 3 Living Fossil. Usually warrior decks play 1. But since we're racking up on rank 4 Xyz monsters, we might as well do that, and possibly more link play. So in itself, this card isn't as bad as it looks, because special summoning is important, and although you can only activate it once per turn, but drawing into it can make a huge difference, just like Monster Reborn. So Moon Mirror Shield pretty much beats over any monsters, especially if you're going over trying to go get over Ultimate Falcon or whatever oppressive monster in Yu-Gi-Oh! That's a lot of players have access to that you can't simply overcome, especially that's unaffected by card effects, because sometimes card effects in itself just can't handle certain monsters. Rhoda, because that one we play it because it basically helps you search one of your warrior monsters. Not much to explain. This is the card that's important that I need to explain, which helps you go into your certain combo. We're not going to really explain the first effect. We're already aware it's not really useful. But the most important part about this card is that during your main phase, you can normal summon 1 Rescue Ace monster in addition to your normal summon set. So that's where we're playing 3 Airlifter, just in case we have 1 in our hand, even though we already searched the HQ with the first rescue that we summon, even though we have one in our hand. So the whole point is we save the second one in hand just in case we want to normal summon with headquarters. And once per turn, Risky's headquarters can target 4. It's not different, not different names. You can target 4 of your Risky's monsters that are banished, and or in your graveyard, shuffle them into deck. Then you draw 1 card, and it's not hard once per turn. And obviously, we're our final spell. We're maxing out as 3 triple tactics talents, because obviously this deck is going to overcome a lot of monsters that activate during our turn. So just in case if they do something, help us draw into more consistency. Try to change reverse the game and try to retaliate, whether use one of our monsters to attack, possibly go for game, or basically get rid of a nuisance monster I have on the field for a possible link summon or potential rank 4 play. Or usually if we don't have anything that we can do during the main phase, or after not even during the main phase, or if once we skip our battle phase, we will use the last effect to shuffle, choose 1 card from the opponent's hand to shuffle into the deck, just in case we didn't do anything at that point. So that's something that I want to keep in mind with you guys. So, and our last trap, obviously just playing 1, is the Shade Brigandine. Since we have no traps, easy special summon. You could play the like I think it's Ancient Cloak or Silent Boots, or my mistake, Silent Boots, to search the trap. But at the same time, you most likely when you draw to you're most likely going to summon it regardless. Again, side deck is up to personal preference, but we're going to go straight to that deck. 1 Abyss Dweller, possibly to hit tier limits, or yeah, pretty much lock the opponent from using the graveyard. Divine Zeus, just a very generic staple Xyz monster. Like anytime you attack with an Xyz monster, or if it battled and it managed to survive, you can easily overlay that Xyz monster with Divine Zeus. And we're obviously playing the Utopia package, but first to go into double or nothing, we go into Utopia double first to use this effect, adding the doubling or nothing from our deck to our hand. And when we do, we immediately Xyz summon into Utopia, and then eventually activate double or nothing, and then Utopia's attack would be 10k. And although it cannot directly, it's just enough to possibly kill the opponent, even with just 1 monster. So Baguska, if we go first, and then we have the right materials to lock our opponent from doing anything and keep us safe for a couple of turns. Dugaris to help us extend our plays even further, with us drawing 2 more cards, skipping our main phase, skipping the battle phase, and although it does cost us, it can be worth it depending like how bad the situation is. So you just got to be aware what's on the field and what other options you have, and if you have no choice but to use Dugaris effect, even though it might cost you, at least it's giving you an option to continue playing, as we're able to make the move that you need for it to be more accessible, as well as even being able to overcome the opponent as quickly as possible. And how you manage your time, how you manage your field is all up to you, because it would probably be the last thing that you want to use if you're using Dugaris, or if you want to get into that given moment where you're in a tight spot and you want to be able to try to overcome that. Our last Xyz monster is Tornado Dragon. In case our opponent is playing more back row and we just want to target 1 spell trap on the field, basically a better MST. Pretty much an MST that you can access any time that you need, and in itself just able to pop 2 spell trap cards in a row. So onto our link monster, Access Code Talker. Not much to explain. The card is a game changer, comes in clutch, and depending on the monsters that you use to link someone with, but depending on the number of link arrows it has, it gains that much attack by 1,000 times the link rating that it had. On top of that, banishing a different attribute to blow up a card in your opponent's field without them responding. Appaloosa, a card that we usually go first into in case we don't have any any level 4 monsters on the field, so we might as well just use up our link 2 as well as 2 other monsters for Appaloosa and set up our plays. and ensure that it helps us first turn just to slow the opponent down and make them use up their resources as well as use up their effect so that I can be able to set up for next turn. Burrow Sword for potential OTKs, not much to explain. Like, since we have a lot of monsters that summon from the main, like summon from the hand that are in our main deck. On top of that, we have Immortal Gearfried, we have the Rescue Machine monsters which have enough attack just in case. So we can just leave Burrow Sword along with Gearfried and the other Rescue monsters in attack just in case. So once we use up our link plays, we have enough attack with using those monsters combined as well as Burrow Sword, chaining with its effect, switching those monsters defense, and giving him an additional attack to possibly kill the opponent. 2 Assault, which is very important, I believe, since we're already playing 2 level 1 warrior monsters, which benefit us. The first effect is very useful, even though you have to wait until next turn before you can use it, or your opponent's turn if it has a quick effect. But what's crazy about this card, for some people who might be unaware, is that you can send any number of quick spells with different names from your deck to graveyard. Special summon 1 warrior monster from your deck whose levels equal the number of cards sent to this effect, sent to the graveyard by this effect. And that's the thing that makes this deck very viable, because in itself, you can easily go into a Link 3, Link 4. It makes Link summoning that much powerful. And especially if you're playing a warrior deck. Like, some people, it's crazy how this deck in itself is being overshadowed, but then you have Link monsters like this that make the deck really relevant, considering how important this card is. It's what makes Link summoning that much easier, and that's what this card is known for. And then warriors aren't getting that recognition, even with it being really overshadowed by the new archetypes. And that's the point I'm trying to show you, is that in itself, even though whether it's competing or not, even though it may not be topping a lot of regionals, it may not become as popular as now, it may have lost its relevancy, but at the same time, in itself, is proven that this effect cannot be forgotten, and this is just, it's always going to be a good card regardless. This card is always going to see play when you're playing warriors. There's nothing bad I could say about this card. There's nothing to criticize about it. But we can only say for sure is that, like, again, that there's going to be new decks out there that will definitely keep this deck power crept. And for our final monsters, no need much to explain. Marvel's playing the Nightmare package, Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn. Sorry if this video is a lot longer. I just want to get into detail as to, for you guys to understand what cards that I'm using, especially because I own the deck in real life. I rather own the cards than play on a simulator, because it's worth the experience if you actually own the cards, because you feel like you actually achieved and made success out of it by actually getting access to these cards and be able to utilize and explain those strategies based from your knowledge, as well as being to interpret what things can be changed or whether this deck will see play. Whoever decides to take this deck into consideration, as well as the strategy, and appreciate something this diverse, and that diversity in itself is not as like often being sought after. It's not as often being mentioned. It's not being recognized, but that's something that I'm trying to influence. But again, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to check for more upcoming content later in the future. Be sure to check your notifications, comment, like, subscribe. Thank you.